Avengers might appear to be the most beloved superhero team of Earth, when it comes to other superheroes and superhero groups, there are actually a lot of people that kinda have issues with them. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda. Today we'll be counting down the top 10 superheroes who actually hate the Avengers. But what about you? Are the Avengers your favorite superhero team? And if not, which team is? And why? Number 10. Wonder Man. I mean, Wonder Man was literally the guy to organize the Avengers team. This happened because Wonder Man, aka Simon Williams, believed after years and years of having a rough go, to put it lightly, that the Avengers were actually to blame for pretty much all the negative parts of his life. He decided ultimately that the Avengers had to be stopped and put a team together known as the Revengers. The Revengers were literally created to take out the Avengers, and they almost succeeded too. At first, Wonder Man's Revengers attacked the New Avengers team. While initially the New Avengers held their own, ultimately the Revengers prevailed and actually won that fight. Confident in their ability, the Revengers then headed for the main Avenger team. This is where they ended up failing, with Wonder Man being imprisoned while in his ionic form. Let's also not forget that Wonder Man was initially introduced as a supervillain, who himself fought against the Avengers to begin with, so he also literally started out as an antagonist to them. Albeit one who was eventually redeemed and ended up ultimately joining the team he had been sent to destroy. But, you know, he's got a long history with them. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we're doing here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button. Number 9. Young Avengers. Hate might be a strong word here, considering that the Young Avengers, are inspired by the main Avengers team, but you can't deny that the Young Avengers at least have some beef with the team that inspired them. At least, they did when they first formed. The Young Avengers, as inspiring teen heroes, actually wanted to learn from their mentors and sought to be trained by them, actually reaching out to the Avengers. However, when they tried to reach out to, get training and get some help and pointers, they ended up being turned away, with Captain America actually refusing to teach them anything initially, and even attempting to discourage their attempt to become heroes. In fact, initially the Avengers even tried to prevent the Young Avengers from facing Kang, and even sided with Kang against the Young Avengers member Iron Lad. Kang had in essence shown the Avengers some awful visions of the potential future, were Iron Lad not to fulfill his destiny in becoming Kang, and the Avengers were basically convinced by this. Fortunately, the Young Avengers weren't so easy to lock away, so they managed to escape confinement and prepare for the battle against Kang. Although Iron Lad would ultimately return to his own timeline, resigned to become Kang one day. Times have changed and the Young Avengers have largely become accepted by the Avengers who came before, but the start there, it was kinda rocky. Number 8. Hulkling. During the beginning of Empire, you could definitely argue that Hulkling kinda hated the Avengers, at least for a moment, considering that they were siding with the Alliance's enemies, the Kotati. However, once the Avengers learned the truth of the Kotati's plans and their vendetta to, in essence, destroy all organic life, it became clear to them that the Alliance were actually more the side to ally with in this intergalactic fight. In fact, the whole reason that Hulkling had in essence been able to bring together the long-warring empires of both the Skrull and the Kree to create the Alliance, other than, his parentage being a Kree-Skrull hybrid, born both of Skrull royalty and a celebrated Kree war hero, was because of this unified threat, the Kotati. Number 7. Spider-Man. While Spider-Man has himself been an Avenger, that doesn't mean he's always seen eye to eye with the team or always gotten along with them. In fact, at one point they kind of betrayed his trust, or at least, one of them did. Yep, I'm talking about Iron Man during Civil War, the first Civil War, baby. It was during Civil War that Spider-Man was convinced by Tony Stark to reveal his true identity to the world as part of a push for the Superhuman Registration Act, revealing that Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, stood with Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, and supported the act. Stark believed that for accountability's sake, it was actually really important to reveal their civilian identities to the public. Of course, this almost immediately backfired, with a hit being put out on Peter, and after an attack on his life went wrong, Aunt May ending up in critical care. It would ultimately be Peter's choice to side with Avenger Tony Stark that would result in Mary Jane and himself making a deal with Mephisto to restore Peter's secret identity and save Aunt May in exchange for their marriage. So yeah. Number 6. Eternals. The Eternals and Avengers both seem to have beef with each other when the two teams clashed in AXE, which, for those who are unfamiliar, was the summer to winter event of 2022. Avengers vs. X-Men vs. Eternals, or AXE, or AXE. Judgment Day. Here the X-Men were being attacked by the race known as the Eternals, who were now being led by the manipulative Druig. To combat this, some members of the Eternals team sought to bring back one of their gods, the Celestials, in the hopes that, the Celestial would right all the chaos going on and basically punish Druig. They kidnapped Tony Stark and worked with him to resurrect a fallen Celestial, essentially breathing new life into it and creating kind of a new Celestial altogether. Iron Man agreed to help, but based the nervous system off his own, and ultimately when the progenitor woke and came online, it gave the entire Earth 24 hours to prove that they were worthy of life. The Eternals and the X-Men then both kinda looked at Tony and, well, kinda blamed him for this in part. He did base it off of himself, so yikes. Number 5. Emma Frost. Emma Frost definitely is more inclined to give the Avengers the cold shoulder from time to time. To her, they deserve it. Emma's posed question when it comes to the Avengers and their relationship to mutant kind and the X-Men is, what have you done for us lately? Despite her and Tony Stark even having had an established on and off again romance between them, she has no qualms with also grilling him on why he and the Avengers team have never been around when mutants needed them most, like, during the tragedy in Genosha. Like many mutants, Emma is left wondering why the Avengers haven't used, the fact that they're loved and celebrated the world over to stand with mutants and actively attempt to lift them up in the public eye and help fight against everyone that hates them. Tony's response to Emma's line of questioning is to point out that, the Avengers have also had a hard time when it comes to their being accepted by the world, but Emma, she isn't buying it. And to be fair, mutant-based heroes have traditionally had it, I think, a lot harder in comparison to human-based heroes, so I think I stand with Emma on this one. Number 4. Beast. Beast is having a wild time in his life right now in the comics. Oh, Hank, what happened to you? He is in essence Dark Beast, but what if Dark Beast simply existed in the main continuity, because we know Dark Beast is dead, so this can't be Dark Beast, sadly. We can't explain it away. Recently, Beast created his own Council of Beasts, and every time I see him do just about anything in the comments lately, I question if he is still sane and isn't somehow losing his mind. Beast is currently the head of X-Force, which seems to have made him extremely paranoid against anything that isn't actively advertising itself as being very, very pro-mutant, which is where the Avengers come in. They have never really been actively pro-mutant, I would say, although at times they have worked to try and better understand their friends the X-Men, and have even stood with mutants and sometimes been an ally. They have also, though, done things to, in a roundabout way, kinda harm mutants, or at least, haven't always been there when mutant kind really could have used some help from the heroes. So whether or not they are on Beast's strike list, they are most likely a team that he would not care for. And honestly, even some of the folks Beast does seem to care for, or has cared for in the past at least, have seemingly popped up on his strike list of late. So just based on that, it's not looking good for the Avengers standing with Hank. Number 3. Daredevil. Currently in the comics, Daredevil is the one with a target on his back when it comes to the hero the Avengers are currently going after. And get this, the reason they want to bring Daredevil to justice is because he's trying to reform villains. Like, wait, what? Apparently we can chalk this feud up to a misunderstanding where so many hero versus hero conflicts obviously come from. The Avengers have simply assumed that Daredevil is looking to build up a villain army, as opposed to, simply talking to him and seeing that Matt Murdock is in fact just trying to give villains a second chance. It's not a villain army, and it's actually trying to turn them into heroes, which you'd think the Avengers would kinda be all for, because it just helps everyone. If only they simply were willing to sit down and have a conversation, instead of jumping to conclusions. But obviously, they can't do that, because comics. Number 2. The Punisher. Frank Castle and the Avengers have had a rocky relationship throughout the years, and when you look at both their differing philosophies on heroism and their approaches to it, kinda makes sense. To the Avengers, Frank Castle tends to go too far. For the Punisher, there are many times when the Avengers simply don't go far enough, and it actually came to a point where the Avengers were hunting Frank and trying to capture him in Punisher Warzone. They even succeeded with Iron Man putting him in his own separate cell where he was kept a safe distance away from all other prisoners at all times, because Tony knew if Frank felt he had a chance, he would kill the criminals he was locked up with, which, to be fair to Tony, he probably would. Number 1. X-Men. The X-Men hate the Avengers because while the Avengers also get a lot of flack sometimes for things, for the most part they can't really relate when it comes to what it's like to deal with all the hate that the X-Men and mutant kind just get for, well, being themselves and existing. Overall, the world loves the Avengers, but overall the world world tends to hate or judge the X-Men just because they're mutants, even though the X-Men have saved the world like multiple times. The differences between the two and just how much the Avengers didn't really get what was going on for the X-Men was highlighted during the Avengers vs. X-Men event, also known as AVX. Although at least out of that we got the Uncanny Avengers, which was a team that Captain America put together in the hopes of mending the relationship between the two teams, which, you know, kinda worked, I think. That's all the time we have for this list. I hope you enjoyed talking about some of the heroes who simply have had it out for the Avengers in the past, and, you know, vice versa. The Avengers have had it out for some other people too. And of course, there are loads more, because we have years of comic book history of that happening. Let us know in the comments who you'd love to see on a part 2. I nominate Hulk and Wanda for that list myself, who I would have loved to talk about here, but just didn't have enough time. Till next time, stay nerdy YouTube, I'll see you then.